This is the Installer Guy, Episode 4, kicking it with news. And today's news is about COVID-19 and 9/11. Now, first thing I'll talk about is COVID-19. It's an epidemic or pandemic, if you want to call it, that originated out of China. Over time, there were different pandemics that took over and killed a lot of people, unfortunately. And when I think of different ones, I'm thinking the Black Death, Black Plague, chickenpox, AIDS virus, Ebola virus, and of course, COVID-19 is the other one. COVID-19, it was located in China. Some say that it came from a bat in a supermarket. Some say it came from a laboratory. Some say it was man-made for a reason to control the population. I believe, from the information that I've read, that it was in a laboratory and that it somehow leaked out by accident. The laboratory didn't want to take ownership. So that's how that started. Now, people are wondering, is it real or is it a hoax? And for those that believe it's a hoax, they're not taking the vaccine. And then when you're getting sick, you're crying, wanting the vaccine after the fact. But at that point, it's too late. The vaccine is important. I think you should all take it. I know there's a risk factor involved, but the reward outweighs the risk. The risk is that you're worried about the side effects that could happen from it. Some of the side effects could be that you have problems having kids. If you have a weak immune system, it'll make it even weaker. And for the examples like a cancer survivor, someone that's a diabetic, or someone just has bad immune system. I understand that, but the percentage of those factors are small, minuscule in comparison to the reward that it can give you from taking a vaccine. When the vaccine came out for chickenpox and for the flu, people were in lines and droves trying to get that because it could hurt you in the long run. When I say that, things like pneumonia, things like getting sick from other things that could cause that problem. Think about that for a second. There are people right now to this day that when you walk outside, they're not wearing a mask. They're not wearing it because they think that because I have my 2 shots that I'm safe. Actually, the mask is not to prevent it from getting into you. It's to prevent you from spreading it. So if it's dormant in your body, you can't affect others that can get it that haven't been and have weak immune systems. But that's where the mask is required for everyone. I think that the fact that someone not wearing a mask is disrespectful, because think about this for a second. The population is told, the people of the world are told to stand 6 feet apart from one another and to not stay in large groups. But if you see on the news, if you see on television, there are concerts and sporting events taking place where people are not wearing masks. People are not social distancing. And yet it still climbs this rate of COVID, the death rate. There are a lot of people that aren't comprehending how serious this is. It's unfortunate that you'd have to lose a loved one just to figure that out. But my advice to you, anyone that's listening, just wear the mask. It's not going to hurt. There's bickering in stores, fights in stores because someone won't wear a mask while others have it. Some people say they have medical conditions, which I get, but if that's the case, your risk has gone up. Or you can simply stay home and order online. They do deliver, especially from if you're wanting food or other things in the house. But those are just ideas. Now, I'm going to talk about 9/11. 9/11 was a tragedy. It's not considered an anniversary in my eyes, but they call it that. But it's a tragedy that happened about exactly 20 years ago, coming up soon. But there's a backstory to this. People don't realize that there is a backstory. The backstory is it all started back in 1975, 79. You pick the date, but it was either in the 70s. And what happened was there was a country named Afghanistan that had a certain resource that everyone wanted. That resource was oil. Now, the Soviet Union decided to take it upon themselves to start a war with them and wanted to claim their territory. At that time, back then, the Soviet Union was considered a superpower, just like the United States. But they were also a communist country, and they had some sort of dictatorship as well. So when they went to Afghanistan, their idea was to control them, take what was there, the resource, and use it and sell it and make themselves even stronger than they were. The United States, which needed that resource also, didn't want that to happen because they were already getting the resource as well. So what they decided to do, the president at that time was either Ford or Nixon. One of those guys decided they were going to send over help to Afghanistan. Now you're wondering, how could they help us? Well, at that time, I think United States had some type of embargo. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but they couldn't just send over the troops over there and start a war with the Soviet Union. What they can do is send CIA over there to assist in getting weapons to Afghanistan to help them defeat the Soviet Unions. So, the president at that time gave the CIA / FBI as well, maybe, I think they're included as well, gave them all a certain amount of money to help bankroll this. It's about $1 billion. And that $1 billion was used not only for military backup, but also to buy a lot of weapons to not only give to Afghanistan, but to help them train to use them from the military of the United States. So, our job, well, I'm saying our, but the United States' job was to somehow help them to win the war so they don't lose inventory of a natural resource called oil. They taught them how to shoot surface-to-air missiles, which you've seen them holding rockets and things, pointing them at helicopters. Showed them how to use rifles, military rifles. Showed them how to use other things that helped defeat the Soviet Union. Fast forward, they defeat them, send them back. They retreat. At that time, they were happy. United States decided they wanted to assist even more and send troops over to help facilitate different things to happen in that country. And this is at the time when Afghanistan had factions. They started to have groups to help keep people out, which was the Soviet Union at that time. Some of them were, let's just say, they were labeled Al-Qaeda. That rings a bell, I'm sure. They were sent over to assist Al-Qaeda and help them and show them how to use these weapons. Now, fast forward even more, just quickly. One of the people that the United States was helping to assist use these weapons, his name was Osama bin Laden. Now, at that time, Osama was only a financier for the Muslims, and he was also an engineer and other things as well. He had people that he knew that were smart as well. They all went to college. Now, before that happened, there was a lot of people that were not happy with their women learning these new values, because at the time they were all Muslim. They didn't approve of the way they were dressing as well. So some of the factions that weren't happy with this decided to make a statement to their Muslim women, pouring acid on them in order for them to not look the way they were looking. So Muslim women started to follow the Muslim way by, unfortunately, wearing robes around their face, hands, eyes, coverings all over their body in order to mask their appearance, which is now a tradition for Muslim culture. There's nothing wrong with having a culture of a religion that believes in certain things, but at that time, it wasn't something that the women wanted to do. Now, as a result of this, they were blaming, along with Osama bin Laden, they were blaming the United States for forcing our religion, our ways upon Afghanistan. At that time, I believe, from what I've read and what I've seen, that the reason behind this was because there was a natural resource in Afghanistan that helped the United States. It helped fuel a lot of things to run. Oil, crude oil. We imported it and used it for things like cars, planes, all types of automobiles, and trains as well. It was a resource that helped fuel the economy of the United States. And when we tried to force our ways on them, they didn't like it. When I say force our ways, there was things that religion was one of them. Okay, the United States. And it's unfortunate that I would say that, because if you think about it, blacks were taken from Africa and they were forced here to learn their ways. There were other races, like, for example, Chinese were brought here as well, and they were forced to do things that they didn't want. They were forced here. You see a lot of movies and depictions of a lot of things where people of Oriental descent, blacks, were forced to work on railroads and build railroad tracks for trains. Those are a lot depicted in movies. To this day, that is how you're being forced into doing something. But back to 9/11. So Osama bin Laden didn't like the fact that the United States was forcing this on them. So he more than likely probably told them to stop. Said it a number of times, said it on the radio. And of course, the United States pretty much just didn't really think about them. So while that was going on, there was things that the United States was trying to force onto Afghanistan, which was the religion, like I said, and Osama bin Laden didn't like that. He decided to retaliate and send a message. Different factions were told to send messages. Some of these messages that were sent was to bomb certain things that the United States had control over. When I say control, I'm not talking about power. I'm just talking about things that stood for the United States. And in Africa, there were U.S. ambassador centers that were bombed by Muslims in order to basically tell us to stop messing with Afghanistan or else. This is just one of the examples. Another example was by shooting down our planes with the things that we gave to the military weapons, which was a surface-to-air missiles, things like that. Another way was Osama decided to send terrorist activity to United States soil, hence an attempted bombing once to the World Trade Center before the 9/11, which was unsuccessful. And then, of course, the planes that finally hit the World Trade Center. There was actually 4 planes. One hit the South Tower, one hit the North Tower, one hit the Pentagon. The other one that was destined for the Capitol didn't make it because the passengers turned on the people that were trying to hijack the plane, and it crashed before it got to the Capitol. So, with that being said, those were the issues that was happening with 9/11. Now, if you fast forward even more to today's times, we're still having issues. The new group is now called Taliban. And what they're doing is, even after Osama bin Laden had been killed successfully, they are still wanting us to leave certain parts of certain countries. Hence, you have issues with Iraq and Iran. You're having issues with, I just say Kuwait. I could go on. The list goes on and on. But the main reason for all of this is because it's a resource. There's a resource over there that does not grow here, does not form here, that we want to take control over. It's all about oil, a mineral, a liquid that can be used to help technology in the United States. Now, that right there speaks volumes. Once again, we come back to technology. You need those turbines to turn in the United States. You need those trains to keep moving. You need those lights to keep running. You need, the list goes on and on. But this is what it comes down to. So, with that being said, this was episode 4 about COVID-19 and about 9/11. And I want to point out something. Each issue has to do with using an import or an export to improve technology. And I'm going to break it down this way. COVID-19, they were working in a laboratory on bacterias and trying to create something. A technological advance. On the other side, you have 9/11. Technology. They needed the oil from these countries to help run certain technologies that were being used in the United States. That being said, I'm signing off. Like I said, don't let the technology run you. You run the technology.